StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves anyone, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to get what you really want. Before we get into this, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation text messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day and your week. All you have to do to receive those is be part of my texting community. It is free to join that community. Just send a text to the following number, 305-384-6894. And when we start sending those messages again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone, and they will do exactly what I told you they're going to do, guaranteed. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You would like to have me as your direct coach. You would like to have me as a person who you can talk to on a regular basis, share your challenges, share the things that you're looking to do, get your questions, ask your questions, get your questions answered, get even better questions applied to you and get answers to those as well, and get access to all of our frameworks, trainings, systems, and processes inside of Work on Your Game. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link's down below in the description to this episode. With that out the way, let's get into the topic here today, which again is how to get what you really want. Now, understand everybody wants things. It's part of the human condition to want things. There a person listening to this, anybody listening to this who just doesn't want anything. Like there's nothing in your life that you want. You don't want, and when I say want, I don't mean necessarily tangible things. Maybe you just want to be happy. Maybe you want to have friends. Maybe you want to be without worry or anxiety or stress or fear or problems or whatever the situation. Everybody wants something, which is exactly my point. There's nobody listening to this who doesn't want something. We all want stuff. It's part of the human condition. Most of us, when thinking about the things that we want, we think on a tactical level, as to what it will take to get this thing. Okay, so I want more money. So what am I going to do? I need to sell my product more. I need to run more ads, or I need to go find more customers, or I want to be in shape. So I need to go to the gym more often, or I need to drink some more water, or I need to stop eating ice cream, or I need to stop sitting around watching Netflix. Usually when we think of the things we want, we think tactically. What do I have to do in order to get it? Or we think about how much time is it going to take to get it. Okay, in order to make this money, it might take me a week, might take me a month, might take me a year. For me to lose weight, it might take 6 months, might take 6 weeks. We think about the time, or what we need to go get, or do not currently have access to when it comes to getting those things. Okay, for me to get in shape, I need to go to a gym, but I don't have a gym membership, or there's no gym close to me. Or back in the days when I was doing my basketball material, I would get a lot of ball players reach out to me and they would say, well, Dre, I watch your stuff and I live in, and they would mention some foreign country outside of the United States. And they would say, well, where I live, the closest basketball court is like 3 miles away, and my parents would have to drive me, and they don't see basketball as a viable future for me. So they are loath to bring me to the basketball court. So I never get a chance to practice. What am I supposed to do? And so this is like a roadblock that people have for, okay, I know I need to solve this problem, but in order for me to solve it, I need to do this, but I can't do this because I don't have the tools to get to it. So this is usually the way that we think. Again, all tactically when it comes to the things that we want, what we need to go get or what we do not have. Now, while all of these may be useful considerations, because if there is a real roadblock for you going and doing something, it's important that you know that there's a roadblock. We should probably know about that. I want you to understand that there is a higher level of getting what we want that I want to focus on here today above the tactical stuff that gets you out of your head so much. Because when you're only thinking tactically, usually you're in your head. You're thinking about what you need, what you don't have, et cetera, et cetera. And this is more about tapping into the mindsets and energies that go over the top of things like resources, knowledge, or your lack of resources and your lack of knowledge. All right, do you want to know about this? Good. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic once again here today is how to get what you really want. Number one, what do you really want? Let's get clear on that first. What do you really want? What do you want? You need to be clear and specific in answering this question. What do you want clearly and specifically? If you ask 100 people what they want and tell them to be clear and specific, most people would hesitate to answer the question because they may have an initial answer that they start to say, but then when you give them that detail about being clear and specific, most people have to think about it and kind of rephrase what they were going to say because they're not clear and specific in their own head as to what they want. And you being unclear in your own head about what you want is a big reason why you're not getting it. You're not clear and specific as to what you want. That's why it's not happening, because you're sending out is kind of like I can't remember who used this metaphor, because I want to give them credit. I believe it was Jack Canfield. He's one of the creators of the Chicken Soup for Your Soul Chicken Soup series. They did the Chicken Soup for Everything series, and he's a speaker as well. And Jack Canfield talked about how when you have a thought or something that you want and you're thinking it in your head, it's kind of like writing a purchase order. And the purchase order is basically you just putting on, let's just say you're shipping out a product, and or just say you're ordering a product. Any of you ever made an order online for a tangible product that has to be physically mailed to you? You have to put in your name, you put in your contact information, you put in your physical location where you want your product to be mailed to, which is your home or your PO box or your office or whatever the situation may be. And if you're not clear on what you want, folks, it's kind of like you ordering something online from Target or Amazon and you putting in a bad address. You're putting in a location of where you want it shipped, but the location doesn't actually exist. You put in a street address that isn't there, a street number that doesn't exist, a street that doesn't exist, the wrong zip code, the state abbreviation code is not right. You give them the wrong name, and then you're calling Amazon asking them where the hell is my package. Well, you gave them bad information, so of course you never received the package. See, this is what happens. This is what happens with a lot of us, is that we're writing out unclear purchase orders, and this is the reason why we're not getting the thing that we ordered. All right, so you thought you ordered 3 pairs of pants, but what you actually ordered was 4 shirts and a pair of socks. And then you're complaining that you got 4 shirts and a pair of socks. Well, that's what you ordered. You thought you were thinking one thing, but your communication of it was different. And this is the reason why many people come up short in getting what they want. See, many of us have things that we want, but we are not clear and specific about them. And if I ask you what you want for example, I want you tell me what your family life is going to look like 5 years from now. 5 years from now, what does your family life look like? What's your answer? See, if you to answer the question, you got to get specific about it. All right, where are you living? Are there kids in the picture? Is there a spouse involved? What's your daily life? Who's taking care of what in the home? And as many details as you can think of, the more specific you can get, the better. Because the universe responds to specificity. The subconscious mind responds to specificity. The more specific you are, the more likely it is you'll get what you want. The more details you can give, the more likely you get what you want, because the details give you exactly what you're asking for. And if you're too vague, then you may not get what you asked for. You may get it, but it won't be exactly what you thought it was going to be, because again, your picture in your mind may be specific, but the way you communicated it was not specific. That's why communication skills are a force multiplier. The better you are communicating, the better it will help you in every aspect of your life. I told this story, who knows, maybe a month or two ago here on the show, of how I had this vision in my mind that I wanted to have a billboard in Times Square, New York City. And around 2000, and it was about 2016, I started getting all these messages on Snapchat. And this is when Snapchat was the place for the daily story stuff. Nowadays it's Instagram, but back then it was Snapchat. I started getting all these Snapchat messages from people I knew in New York and followers I had in New York. And I have a lot of followers in New York. And they were all sending me pictures of me on a billboard in New York City. Like, this really was happening. The thing is, the billboard that they were seeing me on was in the subway station. So when you come out of the train and you're walking along the little corridor out of the train or into the train, you see the billboards up on the wall. Most of the time we walk past them not even consciously noticing them. But people were noticing that I was on one of those billboards. And the billboard was about 4 feet tall, maybe 4 feet tall and about 6 feet wide. So it was a 4x6 billboard, and it was me doing an ad for this company called Stash, which is like a micro investing company that I still work with to this day. And shout out to the people at Stash. They were nice enough when the billboard came out, because the billboard was only in New York City. So I didn't see this billboard in Miami. It was only in New York. So they do these billboards like regionally. So they were showing it in New York, but they weren't showing it in Miami. So I only knew about it because of the people I knew in New York who were sending it to me. And I reached out to Stash, and they sent me a copy of the billboard. So I actually still have that billboard. I haven't put it up on the wall because the wall space is not quite big enough to fit it with my whiteboard and all that stuff. And if you're watching on video, you see all the stuff I got behind me. So it can't fit there. only spaces over there, but the whiteboard is blocking. So I still have it. The whole point being, the vision that I had in my mind when I would say to myself, I'm going to have a billboard in Times Square was not a 4x6 in the subway. I was thinking the 100 foot by 100 foot up on the big walls when you're outside walking around Times Square and all the bright lights. That's the kind of billboard I had vision in my mind. But my specificity, when I was saying to myself, I'm going to have a billboard, all I said was, I'm going to have a billboard. And technically, that subway poster that is a billboard. Technically, that is a billboard. It was a 4x6 billboard, but it's a billboard. I was thinking a 100 foot by 100 foot billboard. And because I wasn't specific enough, I got exactly what I asked for. It was just not in the form that I thought it was because, again, I didn't give enough details. My details were off, so it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. It's kind of like sometimes when I'm in my building here in Miami in the package room, because we have probably 800 people who live in this building. So there's one room where they put all the packages, but they have them organized in a certain way. Sometimes the package they just leave it on the main table in the room because somebody orders something and they put the address of our building, but they don't put their unit number. So they don't put the number. So if you live in unit number 3304, but you forget to put that on there, but you just put the address, the street address of the building, the package gets delivered to the building and it has your name on it, but we don't know what unit it goes to. So the package is left on the table and it says no unit number. So we can't put it in the little box that goes for you because you were not specific enough as to where this package goes. And every day there are people in there complaining sometimes because they can't find their package. And I'm not saying it's always because the address is wrong. Sometimes people organize things incorrectly. Sometimes packages just don't show up. But the whole point is we got to be specific, folks. Now, I'm telling you all that to say you have to be specific. The more details you can give as to what you want, the more likely you are to end up having it because you are getting your subconscious mind involved in understanding what the plan is. And remember that the subconscious controls 85% of what we do and what we get in life. If your subconscious mind is not on the same page as what you're consciously thinking about, that's probably a big reason why you're not getting the outcome you want. When your subconscious doesn't know the plan, but you're consciously thinking about the plan, then you get frustrated. Why? Because you are not moving yourselves towards the actions that you're consciously thinking about, but because your programming is not aligned with your conscious thinking. Understand that your programming is the subconscious. What you're constantly thinking about is not programming. That's just thoughts. Those are just fleeting thoughts that just go through your mind every day, in one ear and out the other for the most part. The thought process and the subconscious thought process, again, are not always on the same page. The conscious thoughts and the subconscious are not on the same page if you are not intentional about these things. Okay? So you got to get them on the same page. And if you're not intentional about them, they will never be on the same page. See my episode on ways to program the subconscious mind to understand this. And that was episode, let me get an episode number. Number 2918, 3 ways to condition your subconscious mind. If you haven't listened to that episode, you need to listen to it because it is of paramount importance to you understanding how to get the things that you're thinking about to become the things that you actually do. And there is a difference between the two. Point number 2, today's topic, once again, is how to get what you really want. Number 2 is ask yourself, what will it take to get it, and are you willing to do it? Good questions. What will it take to get what I really want, and am I willing to do what it takes to get what I really want? This is a serious question you have to really ask yourself. Most people just answer this question, the second one especially. Most people just default to, yes, I'm willing to do it. Okay, we'll see. Most of the time the answer is no, you're not. So here's where we can get more tactical and strategic as to what it will take to get what you want. See, it helps to have the details in place, which is why the first question was asked, so that you know what you're asking about getting when you go and start looking for how am I going to do this. See, when you're really specific about what it takes to get that, then it makes more sense when you're really specific about what you want, rather, then it makes more sense when you go looking for what it takes. See, if I had gotten more specific, if I knew then back in 2016 what I know now when I'm recording this about how to get a 100-foot billboard in Times Square, well, I probably would have known is not going to happen based on the things that I was doing back in 2016. And maybe the things that I'm doing now. I haven't called anybody and said, hey, how much to put a billboard up in Times Square, which I could do if I really want to just pay to have a billboard. I probably don't want to because the cost probably doesn't make sense for me. But the whole point being, when you ask the right questions based on accurate information, i.e. the details of what you want, then it becomes a much more clearer picture as to whether or not you want to move forward or not. Do you want to take the next step here or do you not? And here, look, sometimes you may kill off an idea because you know what? This is going to cost me too much. This is going to take too much time. This doesn't make sense for me. The investment here is not worth the return. You know what? I'm gonna pass on this one. That's okay if that's the situation. But we got to be clear. That's the whole point. You got to ask the right questions so you can get clear. If you don't ask the right questions, then there's no clarity. And when there's no clarity, then it's easy to put in a whole lot of effort, not get the result, and not even know why it's happening. But the more clear you are, the more detailed you are, the easier it is to identify what the problem is, if and when there is one. And challenge for many people is that they don't even know what the problem is because your clarity is off. You're cloudy. Your vision is very cloudy. Your details are missing, and your specificity doesn't exist. So, getting more tactical here. When you have all the details in place, you know what you're asking about getting, and when you go and start looking. If you want to be in better shape, for example, you want to be able to do 100 pull-ups without stopping, let's say, or you want to run an 8-minute mile and a 5K race. So you want to run 5K is about 3.14 miles, I believe. You want to run that distance and you want to do it at an 8-minute or faster pace. Let's say that's your goal, and you've never done that before. Or you want to be able to walk up 3 flights of stairs without losing your breath. Now you can go find out, what is it going to take to get to those goals from the current position at which I stand? All right, that's the question that you would ask yourself. What is it going to take to get there? This may require you talking to others who know things that you don't know. All right, so who knows how to run an 8-minute mile for a 5K distance? It ain't you. Okay, who does know? Or who can help you out in figuring that out? Maybe that means you need to consult some reference material that can give you information and insight, and then figure out if you are willing to do the things that you learn about in order to achieve that outcome. All right, so if you want to you want to have six-pack abdominal muscles that show off when you go to the beach and take your shirt off. And right now you have a 0 pack, and you don't have a pack right now. You got a spare tire, but not a 6-pack. Are you willing to give up cake and ice cream in order to get it? Because that's what it's going to take. Based on the information that you got, based on the conversation you had with a personal trainer, yes, we can do a whole lot of sit-ups, but if you don't give up cake and ice cream, those sit-ups are not going to, you're still going to have that spare tire. We got to get rid of the cake and ice cream. Are you willing to do that? If the answer is no, that's okay. Now walk away and change your goal from having a 6-pack to, or maybe you just want to have a 6-pack of beer instead of 6-pack abs. All right, that's the decision that you made. If the answer is yes, you're willing to give up the cake and ice cream, okay, let's get rid of it right now. So now we can get moving on this goal. So this is the serious question that you have to ask yourself, happens right here. You want to run a 5K at an 8-minute per mile pace. Are you willing to give up watching Netflix for an hour and a half every night so you can actually go to sleep and wake up early enough to actually work out so that you can get yourself physically conditioned to run at that pace? Are you willing to do that? If you're not willing to give up the Netflix, then we got to change the goal. And that's all right. If that's the situation, let's just be honest. Challenge is many of us just bullshit ourselves and say we're willing to do something, but then when it comes time to do the stuff that we say we're willing to do, we ain't doing it. So which one is it? All right, something got to give here, folks. This is the point. See, once you find out what it actually will take to get the specific outcome that you want, then you have to ask yourself if you are willing to do those things. This is the reason why you need to connect with people who are already playing the game at a higher level than you, because they can look at your situation. They know their situation, which is where you're trying to be, and they can see what the gap is between where you're at and where they're at, and they're going to tell you what it takes, and then you have to decide, do you want to do what they're telling you? Yes or no? Are you in or are you out? I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago. I'm trying to think when I'm recording. It's about 3 weeks ago. I was talking to an entrepreneur. He has a couple of businesses, but all told, this guy's doing $10 to $20 million a year in business. And I was having a conversation with him about my business and telling him where I'm at and what I'm doing and et cetera. He said, Dre, 4 or 5 years ago, my business was exactly where your business is. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do here. The pieces, here are the things that you're going to need to do moving forward. He wasn't getting very super tactical and specific, but he was giving me higher level things I need to do. And I wrote down about 14 ideas from the conversation I had with this gentleman, all useful stuff, because he had been where I was at. I hadn't been where he's at. And he was telling me what the gap is between where his position and my position. And now I'm going to work on filling in that gap with the things that he told me to do. But see, had I not had that conversation with him, I'd be kind of flying blindly trying to move forward because I didn't know what I didn't know. He knows. That's why I was talking to him. Everybody understand? This is the reason why you have coaches. This is the reason why you have consultants. This is the reason why you go to conferences. This is the reason why you join masterminds with people who are better than you, because they can see what you don't see. They can see what you don't know nothing about. What you don't know anything about. They've been where you haven't been yet. This is the whole point. And this is the reason why our world of interconnectivity is so valuable these days, because you can access these people, find out exactly how you can get access to the stuff that you need, and then you can go get it. And by the way, it goes deeper than whatever stuff that people are putting out for free, because this is the same guy. He puts out stuff for free. But there's another step to it, folks. That's the whole point. All right, is there another step? I put out stuff for free, but there's another step in order for you to get to that next level. Because if all it took was just consuming people's free stuff to get to that next level, well, then everybody should be at whatever the next level is because everybody puts out stuff for free. There's plenty of free stuff out there right now for all of us to consume, but that ain't enough. If that was enough, again, then most of us wouldn't have any problems. So sometimes you may discover that you're not willing to do whatever it takes. If you whatever when I say whatever it takes doesn't mean anything and everything. It means that whatever it takes means the actual what it takes. Are you willing to do those things? Yes or no? Years ago, I was maybe I'm trying to think what year this was. This is probably maybe 2000 and I believe it was right after college, maybe 2005, 2006, around that time range. I was out of college. I was back at home in Philadelphia, and I was at the basketball court that I grew up playing on. And I was practicing by myself and a couple of younger guys. So at this time, I'm probably 23, 22, 23 years of age. A couple of younger guys, they were maybe 18 or 19. I knew them from the neighborhood, and they're walking around the neighborhood. A lot of guys in my neighborhood, they played basketball when it was convenient or they saw an opportunity, but they weren't basketball players. I was a basketball player. If you see me outside anywhere between the playground and my home, I was going to the basketball court or coming from it. I played seriously and intentionally. These guys, sometimes you see them at the basketball park and they wouldn't even be playing. They'd be sitting on the sideline talking to some girls. They'd be on their way to the mall or something like that. These guys were those type of guys. They played out of convenience. So they were walking past the park. They weren't even trying to play basketball because there wasn't anybody else at the court but me. And they saw me and they knew me. So they came over and was like, I guess they didn't have anything else to do. So they're like, yeah, let's can I shoot around with you or something like that? Or one of the guys, was two of them. So one of them was like, yeah, let's can we play one on one or something like that? And I looked at him and I knew he couldn't beat me one on one. So I said to him, well, it's two of y'all. Why don't y'all play me 2-on-1? And they they looked at each other like kind of incredulously and a little bit like, damn, like this guy really thinks he's that much better than us that he can beat us 2-on-1. He can't beat us 2-on-1. They probably knew I could beat each of them 1-on-1, but 2-on-1 he can't beat both of us, right? So they looked at each other like, nah, fuck that, he can't beat us 2-on-1. Let's go. So we go play 2-on-1, and we played about 3 or 4 games, and needless to say, I dusted them off, busted their asses for 3 or 4 games. I won all the games. And after the games ended, both of these guys are like dead tired because, again, I just told you, they're not basketball players. They played out of convenience. I wasn't playing out of convenience. And I kicked their asses, and they're like really like there is one of those open moments. They're having this moment of their subconscious mind was open at that moment because they had just gotten a dose of reality of how bad they actually were at basketball. Again, why it would matter to them, I don't know and don't care. Same thing happened when I used to work at the gym. I worked at a few gyms and I would take people on a tour of the facility, maybe let them use some exercise equipment, throw them on a treadmill and speed it up, show them how out of shape they actually were after running for like 45 seconds. And in that moment, their minds were very open to, damn, I really am out of shape. I'm in terrible shape. You know what? I need the gym. And that's when I was selling my gym membership. So in case all you didn't know, sales is manipulation. So in this moment, these two guys are sitting down on the sideline here after I just kicked their ass in a couple games of 2-on-1 basketball. And one of the kids said to me, he said, Dre, how often do you come to the park and practice? Because, I'm trying to get better. And I said to him, I'm here all the time. I'm here like every day. And they knew I was there every day because they didn't know me from anywhere other than being at the basketball court. They didn't know me from anywhere else. They didn't see me hanging on the corner. They didn't see me at the mall. They saw me at the basketball court. That's how they knew me. And he knew the answer to the question. I told him that. He said, yeah, I'm trying to get better. I'm going to come out here again. Yeah, we can do this more often so we can work out more and I can get in shape. And I'll tell you, I had this conversation, that same framework of conversation. I had that conversation with 10 different people in my neighborhood growing up, especially once I got to the point, probably after age 18, when I had gotten like really good and to the point that I was basically kicking anybody's ass on the court who wasn't a serious player. I had about 10 conversations just like that one, where someone would work out with me or play with me or practice with me, get their asses kicked, realize how bad of a player they were relative to me. And they would say, well, how often do you practice? I want to come out here and practice with you because they realized practicing with me would probably make them better. And I told them, I'm always here. Everybody in the neighborhood knew where I was and who I was and why I was there. Guess how many times I've seen any of these guys after that conversation? Never. Because they weren't willing to do what it actually took. They said they were willing to do it, but then when it came time to actually doing it, different story. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to get what you really want. Number three is the time factor. What is the time factor? Always remember that your time on this planet is limited. Limited. You have a limited amount of time. It's also known as life. All right. Any of you ever known anybody who died? Okay, that's a reflection of your limited time. You cannot keep telling yourself that you will get around to things later, because eventually there is no more later. Eventually you'll be the person that somebody else knows who died. All of us will eventually be that person. So you can't keep saying I'm gonna get around to it later, because later, eventually ain't no later. So those goals that you have, that you've been telling yourself about for some time now, you keep talking about, eventually you need to act upon those goals. And the best time for that eventually is right now, today. Here's an interesting thought experiment. Can I give you a thought experiment? You can do this right now. How many people, it's that based on what I just said, would actually start making changes right now on the spot? All right, given what I just said. All right, everybody heard what I just said, right? That your time is limited and eventually there's no more tomorrow. Based on what I just said, how many people are going to actually start making changes? I mean, literally right now on the spot. Like while I'm talking to you, you are literally making some changes right now. I'm not just thinking thoughts. I'm not just talking thoughts. I'm talking actual tangible changes. Answer is somewhere around 2% of people. So if 100 people are listening to me right now, two of you are making tangible changes right now. There's 1,000 people listening to me now, then 20 of you are making tangible changes right now. This is the reason why many people never reach their goals. Not because you don't know what to do, not because you are intellectually or physically incapable. It is because most people simply have no sense of urgency. You have a bad habit of putting things off for as long as you possibly can, until there is no more time to put things off, and then it's too late to get things done. This is the reason most people don't achieve: lack of urgency, laziness, slow, putting things off until later. That's the reason most people don't achieve. Most people's perpetual habits are of delay and procrastination. That's what most people do all the time. They delay and they procrastinate. What do I always tell you about copying the habits of most people? I tell you not to do it, right? Okay, this is one you better check yourself for as often as possible, because it will kill you. It will literally kill you, because you're going to die still doing it. So we can say it's one of the causes of death, all right, like COVID. All right, let's recap today's class, which is how do you get what you really want? Everybody wants things. It's part of the human condition to want things. Now we got to talk about, not so much on the tactical level, but on a higher level, how do you actually get the things you want? I'm going to tell you three things you need to factor in right now. Number one, what do you want? Get clear and get specific. The two key terms here are clear and specific. Many people have things that they want, but they are not clear nor specific about them. And if I ask you what you want in a certain aspect of your life 5 years from now, how detailed can you be? And the more detailed you are, the better, the more likely you will reach it. Again, it's like a purchase order. It's like ordering on Amazon. You give it a bad address. You can't be mad at Amazon for not getting your package to you. They'll probably replace it in some way, but it's really your fault you didn't get the package because you were very unclear on what you wanted. And the more specific you can get on what you want, let me also give you another hint here. Write it down. Point number two: what will it take to get it, and are you willing to do it? Here's where you go consult and find people who already know how to do what you're trying to do. Just like I told you, I was talking to a guy doing $10, $20 million a year in business, and I consulted with him to find out what I need to do to get from where I'm at to where he's at. And when you get the answer, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to do this? Because the answer might be no. You might need to change your goal. Okay, I see what it's going to take to do that. You know what? I'm not going to do that. It's like if I went to a tennis instructor and said, hey, Mr. Tennis Instructor, I want to become I want to get in 40 and over tennis tournaments and try to win some championships. What is it going to take in order for me to get that good? And I never played tennis in my life. And then he sits down and tells me all the things it's going to take. You got to work out twice a day, every day for the next 4 or 5 years. Then you might be in a position to actually earn your way into a tournament. That has nothing to do with winning, but you at least get into a tournament, Dre. After about 4 or 5 years of doing that, 42 years of age. So let's say by age 47, Dre, you might be able to get in a tournament, and then you have a chance. All right, am I willing to do that? The answer is no. All right, so I'm gonna have to change the goal. All right, you understand? So sometimes you may not be willing to do what it takes, but often what happens is people bullshit themselves and say that they're willing to do what it takes, and then when it comes time to actually do it, they don't do it, and there's another dream dead on the vine, simply because you're not willing to do what it takes. So you have to ask yourself and seriously answer to yourself, am I willing to do this stuff? And point number three, the time factor. Remember that your time on this planet is limited. It is called death. The limit to your time is also known as death. And you cannot keep telling yourself you'll get around to things later, because eventually there is no more later. Most people have no urgency. Most people, even when hearing things like what I'm saying right now, 2 out of 100 people will actually go and make some real tangible changes right now. Because again, most people procrastinate until there is no procrastinating left to be done. You just need to make sure you are not one of those people. And if you're one of the two that actually does something, what I want you to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, have me as your coach so we can get to work on this stuff right now so we can close the gap between where you're at and where you want to be as quickly and as easily as possible. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all